was a typo, and I'm like, welcome to Under Two Caves. I'm Jared. I'm here with Robert. What's up, brother?
Yo, what up? We're here to talk about my idea I suggested.
Yeah, hell yeah. So today, all right, we're going to compare a few different stories. So for those of you that, to give you guys a little background, if you will, back in the 90s, Marvel, DC, yeah, I know. Hey, what's up, Cameron? So DC wanted to like give their characters, not all of them rebooted, but it kind of amounted to it in a way. So,
yep, I get a good way of playing this. One of their big brands, Batman, decided, let's do something. Here's how it went. First, Knightfall was the first one in the planning stages, and that was simply everyone's complaining. Everyone's telling us, why can't Batman kill? Why can't Batman be edgier? So they decided, let's come up with a story. Well, they'll give them what they wanted, and then they realize they don't want it. Then at the same time, Superman was more of a case of a reactionary because, they were building up to the wedding. But then it was decided, Superman, Lois and Clark, the new adventures of Superman, isn't doing it yet. We'll hold off until then. So then they decided, we got to come up with something. So, of course, being a little salty that all of their plans were gone, they decided, let's just kill them. And then they were like, yeah, let's kill them.
Yeah, and then so we'll get to that, but let's start with Superman. Yeah, it literally was because what you have to understand is that the idea of killing Superman had come up many times in the editorial meetings as a joke, but this time they were like,
yeah,
story, let's just do it. But then they're like,
I love Mike Carlin. He just said, okay, wise guys, if we do it, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. But my favorite is like, okay, we're gonna kill Superman. How?
Yeah, and then of course Jurgen suggested, hey, I got this Doomsday guy, and we could do it nothing but splash pages. And they were like, oh, come on, we can't just do nothing but splash pages. But then they realized, wait, the big story isn't the death; it's what happens after the death.
And what's funny, by the way. So here's a funny story. I don't know if you know this, Robert, but this happened around the time. So the story immediately before Superman dies is Panic in the Sky.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So what's funny is
people mistook the pod because they only read the trade. They never read what came out afterwards.
So technically, for the longest time, the first appearance of Doomsday was erroneously said was the last issue of Panic in the Sky.
When it wasn't, because if you followed the actual issue afterwards, you would have known, it was a nanite thing, swarm.
Yeah, exactly. So for during the death of Superman story arc, I think it was during
it was called Doomsday. Actually, it was not called the death
at the time, but I'm just calling that for ease of storytelling.
Yep.
So all the issues would end with Doomsday's fist hitting a wall.
And Doomsday is coming.
Yeah, it was. That sounds like he must not be named as coming. Boy, did that have the same effect on Superman, huh?
Yep.
But so he would emerge, and the idea is that they wanted to. So they basically made a more invincible Hulk to fight Superman.
Yep. And what I love best is from the 4 issues during that month. So not the Man of Steel issue that led up to it. This one doesn't count. But from the other issues onward, it went from 4 panels to 3 panels to 2 panels, and then finally nothing but splash pages with 1 panel.
Which that's a clever way of counting down to the actual death of Superman. And
the energy and the writing and the artwork and everything had a kinetic energy to it.
Yeah, it definitely did. So, and by the way, Superman 75, the death issue, was like a big national news when they actually did.
It was a slow news day because it was a slow news day. Let's be fair, it was a slow news day.
Yeah, exactly. But then, so Superman died, and they're like, it's to Carlin's point. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. Now what? Which led into the funeral.
With the funeral for a friend arc was see. Here's the thing: a lot of these story arcs that we're talking about, all of them are good stories that went on for too long at certain points.
Yes, exactly.
Like Funeral for a Friend, I'm fine with, because when you kill his character as intrinsic to DC as Superman, you can take some time to feel the effects of Superman because you don't really want to rush that, I don't think.
Exactly. But even the funeral gets a little long towards the end, but not that badly enough.
I'll tell you what takes forever is the reign of the Superman and the return of Superman. Those two is where it gets really sloggy, and I'm like, just get him back in the black suits.
Well, but to be fair, I get why. They each wanted to showcase the four, make you wonder which one, if either. And I love it. They actually made that clear. Which one, if any, is the real? Like, they made it very clear. It could be none of them.
Which yeah, I can tell you it's definitely not the black guy in the Iron Man suit. I'm pretty sure that's not Superman.
Which I loved how they made that very clear. That and neither was it the clone.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like how for a little bit they made you think it was Cyborg for like a long time.
Oh, actually, you more felt. I think, to be honest, I think people more felt the Eradicator because he actually went to the body.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so what happens at the end of Funeral? The
body was
Wait. Let me tell the story. John Kent has a heart attack and goes into the spirit realm or something like that.
Out of body experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and he finds Clark's spirits being like ushered away by like what he thinks is like Kryptonian, like pallbearers, if you will, but ends up being like creatures or something like that. So he and Clark fight through the creatures. He goes back to his own body, and then all of a sudden, the body of Superman is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Which
and one thing I did like how Paul says, we do not know what the Kryptonian form of death is. You're only doing this because we inputted this into you, into the human sense. Don't think like a human and be like a Kryptonian. We don't know what their form of death is. Does death apply to them?
Yeah, because what they would retcon it in, and by the way, Cameron says, so Rain was that early dose of what Connor being a clone of Clark and Lex? What was the
No. It was made because it was an edict that Clark is the only Kryptonian there, and they couldn't even have it be a clone. Hence why it was later made clear, as soon as Reign ended, that he wasn't even a clone of Superman. He was a clone of someone else, Dabney Donovan, I believe, and that all of his abilities were psychokinetic.
Yeah, because wasn't that during the time period where they were really trying to emphasize the last son of Krypton thing?
Exactly. That's what I just said. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and then, so what we would find out is that, okay, so the Superman never died. Like, he never actually died. What happened was, when Kryptonians are like punched to death, I guess, they go into what's called a Kryptonian healing coma. This is
Something
the later
like
retcon of that. It's essentially that.
But the Eradicator put it best, if he had waited a little bit too long, it would have been impossible.
Yeah, but it's like the Eradicator got there at the right time. By the way, Eradicator was a pre-existing character. It's not like
we went over this.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like so. In other words, not all four of them were like in fact, none of them. In fact, the only two that were original characters were Connor and Steel, I think.
Exactly. Whereas the two that were the closest we thought were to being the real deals were already established.
Yeah, because Hank Henshaw was Cyborg Superman, obviously, and then the Eradicator was a Kryptonian artificial intelligence
that was given a physical form in a prior story.
Exactly.
That we didn't go over. But yeah. So
essentially what you get next. So you get the reign of Super. And actually, what's interesting, Return of Superman sets up another story we're going to talk about in this episode, but we'll get to that. So Superman shows up in the black suit and the long hair. And he's depowered at first.
You got it right. It's not a mullet.
No, it's just long hair. People call it a mullet because some people.
You know why? Because they had to keep it short for the S curl.
Okay, but so and he just straps guns to himself and goes, I love. He says something about being a Boy Scout, and I'm like, yes,
Always be prepared.
There's just an image of Superman strapped with guns, and I'm
But
like,
again,
this
it made sense though because his powers were still
at the
drained.
time, and he had like jet boot stuff. And I love so it turns out, spoiler alert, Cyborg Superman ain't actually Superman. So he's Hank Henshaw that was taken and taken by Mongol, I think.
No, oh no. He actually went to Warworld and overtook Mongol, basically saying, "You will work for me."
Yeah. So they show up and they want to turn Earth into Warworld. So
Bart Duh. Yeah.
Yeah. So they blow up Cosetti. Yes,
Yep.
this if you're a Hal Jordan fan, you know exactly what this is setting up.
Yep.
But
That wasn't the plan originally.
No. So the idea, so the way Superman fights him, but then what happens is, so Cyborg Superman
has a giant piece of kryptonite.
Yeah, he turns it into a giant kryptonite gun, which I loved in the Tales of the Dark Multiverse Death when they actually homage this. I'm like, oh, that's great. So he tries to blast him with kryptonite. The Eradicator jumps in the way, and like the kryptonite takes out the Eradicator, but the Eradicator's energy is blasted into Clark, repowering him.
And it's a rainbow energy. So does this mean Superman was powered by Pride energy?
No, you're telling me it's woke now, Robert? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm saying maybe that's why John is the way he is.
Anyway, he punches his fist.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah, he punches his fist through Cyborg's chest and then vibrates it and then destroys him.
Yep, but he jumped away onto something he had placed on the Doomsday previously.
But wait, did Superman know Cyborg was going to do that?
Nope, because as far as he knew, and as far as what Hal's ring sensed, he was gone.
So you could say that Superman killed?
I think because he was more machine and everything.
Nope, he was still sentient. He was still sentient.
Well, here's the other thing. He did say, "I will survive. I have to, and if I do." I think even when Hal said it, as far as Clark is concerned, no, he'll be back. I thought he was dead before. He'll be back.
Nope, it's not explained. Not explained.
True.
Headcanon does not count in this case. Superman killed Cyborg. As far as he knew, it's like Darkseid. It's like Batman shooting Darkseid. He didn't know at the time, but
okay, hey, that's fair.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's death, and honestly, that did like that. Here's the problem with death: the long-term legacy of death. That broke death in comics, because then every character that has died can come back now by some BS reasoning.
But again, they did go out of their way to make it clear this was a one-time thing, and at least Superman hasn't had a repeat of it.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying what happened after this is directly as a result of the precedent that this said, killing him and bringing him back. Because previous, in a long time ago, at the time, when death happened in comics, it was permanent.
Or it required someone else to sacrifice their life. Like when the Legion brought back Lightning Lad, they actually had to kill off someone to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the point.
It had to be a quid pro quo.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like this, everyone died and came back. But anyway, then you get to Batman Knightfall. Now here's the thing about so as Robert said, and Chuck Dixon, when I had him on my show, said as much. It was basically they wanted to, okay, we'll give the fans a killing Batman and see, okay, how do you guys like? They basically wanted to turn Batman into an Image Comics character,
which is so funny when you look at Asbat's first outfit in Batman 500. He looks like Spawn.
Yeah, he does. And by the way, Cameron, it's a new feature on StreamYard where I could put the chat on the screen. So I'm like, okay, I'll try that out. But so the idea of the story. Okay, so Robert, recount the story for us.
Okay, first of all, Batman is, and before the events of Knightfall, Black Mask had already broken out so many people from Blackgate. Batman is also getting extreme insomnia and just getting sick. He is just like getting ill. He also meets up with this young boy, a guy named Jean-Paul Valley, a person who, through something called the system, is able to become a badass crime fighter, but has a an edginess to him as Azrael.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually Bane, a guy from Santa Prisca, who, as I've said before, basically represents Batman's childhood obsession.
Yeah.
On the dark side. He has come to there to want to overthrow the Bat. Why? Because it will bring him peace.
Mm-hmm.
Even he himself isn't fully aware of why. He
Mm-hmm.
just knows it'll bring him peace. So what does he do? He busts out all of the Arkham inmates. And unlike when it happened way back in an earlier Batman issue, Centennial, Batman 400, where Batman was able to do it all in one issue, here it doesn't work. They all get away, and Batman's just like, ah, just yelling into the sky. And then he is trying to, within the span of the next few days, because that's the thing you gotta keep in mind. This is what all of this happens within a day or two.
Which it feels longer when you actually read it.
Well, obviously, because it's a monthly issues, but in universe, it's within the span of 2 days. So Batman is pushing himself and getting tired and weaker and weaker. He's trying to bring in all of his enemies as Bane is building himself up and watching him, and eventually deduces Batman is Bruce Wayne. How can I tell? That he can't simply hide by putting on his mask. I love that line. I love that line. And then eventually, once he finally feels he's ready, he then goes in and fights off Batman and breaks him.
And literally breaks his bat.
Now, to be fair, it's made clear it is not one of those like shatters his back.
No, it just breaks it.
But nor is it the pop the bone breaking like Dark Knight, like the Nolan verse.
Tavia asked what happened to Tim Drake. Well, Tim Drake was still he lasted. I think he
gets a solo book during this.
Yeah, and then I believe that what happened is that when Azrael took over as Batman, Azrael's like, here's the weird thing about Azrael's Batman. So he starts off like a little bit humble and stuff, and then all of a sudden, on a snap, he just goes nuts. And what's up, AJ?
Yeah, because that's the thing. At the very end of Knightfall, which is when Azrael then takes over as Batman, because that's the thing. What leads to it, Bruce is healing, but then at the same time, Tim's father and Bruce's doctor, Chandra, gets abducted and kidnapped. Bruce decides, okay, I'm leaving. You guys are in charge. Azrael, because he didn't want to give it to Nightwing. Why? Because Nightwing was his own man. He didn't want to take it away. AKA editorial wouldn't have allowed it. But so then it was decided, and so Azrael's been doing it, and he saw Tim can rein him in. Bruce had no idea what the system truly was. He just thought the system was one thing. He didn't realize how extreme it was, that it was for to make him an assassin. If he had done it, he would never have given it to him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But Bruce is so not in the right state of mind, period. He's not thinking straight. So, yeah, Bruce leaves, and as soon as he's gone, Jean Paul decides, I'm going to take Bane down, and he does, after upgrading the suit.
Yeah, and then the suit gets more and more like armor. Again, more and more like an Image character. That's the key thing about Knightfall there.
And we are introduced to a few new enemies, and that's the other thing is, these new enemies are interesting, but they don't do much with them. It's like we give him new enemies, and then we got to lead into him killing someone, which ends up being a case of a serial killer who ends up abducting someone and then leaves him there to die. He's going to die. And then Azbat, I'll just call him Azbat.
Yeah, that's fine.
He then goes after the serial killer. And unfortunately, just lets the guy die. Just lets him die. And unfortunately, because of that, his victim dies. All because, now to be fair, Azbat didn't just let him die because he had a freak out from the system.
So,
yeah.
Then we get, the second part, which is called Knightfall.
Knight's Quest is the second part.
Okay, Knight's Quest. That is the part where I'm like, wrap it up.
Yeah, that's where they went too long. They stretched it out, and I get it. You wanted it to, but the thing is that bothers me the most is it's too much Azbat, not enough Jean Paul Valley.
Yeah, he goes all in on Batman.
Yeah, it makes it clear why. Like we're not gonna. It's like that's the best way you can make it clear. He's not gonna be permanent.
Yeah,
Just because we don't get
exactly.
much build up with him as Jean Paul Valley as we should have.
Exactly. So at the same time, Batman is training with
Well, no,
Shiva.
no, we didn't get to Shiva yet. First, he was trying to find Tim's dad and Dr. Chandra. And
Yeah.
eventually, Chandra turns out has healing abilities, which turns out she ends up using, and that's what heals Bruce's back.
Oh, that's how it happened so fast.
Exactly. That's what it caused it to happen so fast, but it reduced her to a childlike mind.
Okay.
Which, of course, is another one of those stupid cases of Bruce was going to propose to her, and, oh, can't do it now.
Yeah, I know.
I hate that.
If John Byrne was in charge, he would have made Bruce do it anyway.
No, dude.
Cameron says, so would you say because of this event, Jean is overhyped as a successor?
No.
No, because he wasn't supposed to be a successor. He was just supposed to be a lesson to the fans saying, you really don't want this.
But not only that, though, but he wasn't a bad character, and he ended up becoming a better character after this.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not evil. It's not like a case of where he got replaced by someone evil. It's that he got replaced by someone who didn't deserve it and was a total mess.
Yeah, exactly. So he trained with Shiva. We have other stories I got to get to.
No, I know. I'm agreeing with them. I'm saying, then Shiva.
Yeah. So Shiva, and he trains it and comes back, and he discovers what Azrael has been doing as Batman. Like, he's been rampaging. So he and Azrael come to blows, and it's a fantastic moment. It's one of my favorite Batman moments. He beats Azrael. So here's the thing. First, he throws acid on him, which somehow changes the color of his armor to red.
Sorry, neighbor.
Yeah, which first he throws acid on him, which changes the armor from blue to red.
That wasn't acid. That was gasoline from a helicopter, and then he ignited himself with the fire.
But still, fire changes the color to red. That's weird. So then you get he has him so Batman essentially fights Azrael in the caves where Bruce first fell into become Batman, and then it's pretty soon Azrael just has the helmet on, and so Batman causes light to shine to the cave and blind him, and as Azrael looks up, he sees Batman standing there in the shadow, all badass, and he goes, "You are Batman."
I am nothing.
Yeah, and then he leaves and then becomes homeless, but and then
eventually becomes the Azrael again.
And then isn't this also where they debut the black suit with the yellow disc?
That's after Protocol. That's when they let Dick take over for a little while, and then they debuted it.
Okay. So that's Knightfall. Which of the two, I kind of like Superman more.
I do too, even though because it's like the point it wanted to get to, they didn't tell it that well. I'm sorry, they really didn't. And I think the problem is this. I don't think unlike the Superman office, which had a history of, we're able to work together with each other and everything.
Hello Summits and all that.
Yeah, the Bat Office really did it, and it shows because once they went into Night Quest and everything, all the stories were parallel. They didn't lead into each other, even though there's some moments that should, and then you're like, but wait, this doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so then you get
the Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay. So here's another hilarious story for you, Robert. So this is written by Masner Loebs, and here's the funny part about it. So you know who encouraged him to push to write for Wonder Woman?
Who?
Trina Roberts. So then when she read what he actually wrote, she called it repugnant.
Really?
Yeah, she hated what he did with Wonder Woman. I think this too.
Real, even this?
I believe this because here's what this turns into. Okay, so here's the point of the story. So the Amazons were sent to a hell dimension for, on their perspective, 10 years. Time travel BS. Oh, wait, hang on. I could use this clip. Where is it?
Time travel.
You have no idea how rare it is I can use that clip. No. They emerge and then have puppets. They don't tell you this yet, But Hippolyta has another reason for what she's about to do. But so she asks Diana, all right, so tell me about your Wonder Woman like mission. How's it going? And then Diana recounts everything and about how there's still like a lot of division in man's world. He tells her about the time that she was like a fry cook at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Hippolyta goes, so you're a failure as Wonder Woman. We will have a new contest as Wonder Woman. So this is when you get the debut of a character that I know NJ knows about, and that will be actually pretty important in Wonder Woman later. Artemis of the Banner McDowell.
Yeah, exactly. And to which indicates they are the man haters.
Yeah, they are the.
When people think of the stereotypical man-hating Amazons, it's them.
Oh my gosh, Tom King would write the crap out of them. Anyway,
right.
I'm just kidding. I don't want that. But
no.
So Artemis wins the contest, and Hippolyta also like lays it on thick. She goes, "You're also a daughter to me," and I'm like, "Oh God." So Artemis is Wonder Woman now, but you may be wondering, what does Diana do? She's still a superhero. But she also she doesn't. Here's the other waste opportunity of this. They didn't give her her own name.
Nope, she's just either Diana or Wonder Woman.
No, I think they just call her Diana in this.
That's true, and we get the Diodato design. Yeah,
exactly. That everyone references when they say they want a sexy Wonder Woman, which Robert and I know about this. Yep. But so then she essentially returns to Boston. Yes, this is when she was like based out of Boston. I don't know why, Tavia, but and she essentially does hero for hire thing. That concept, but she gets a lot of really weird like voicemails. Like they wanted her to come and strip at a party.
Given that outfit, I could see why they would think that.
No, but I'm like, I could see why Trina Roberts were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But so Artemis is Wonder Woman on the Justice League, and the Justice League doesn't take her seriously, which, here's the thing, the Justice League at the time was a freaking joke. Like, Blue Devil. Oh, yes. Okay, so here's the thing. Actually, NJ brings up a good point. Here's the thing. This is why I tolerate this storyline, because we almost got... So, we had Death. We had Knightfall, so they want to do something for Wonder Woman. So they asked, okay, so what's like a Wonder Woman story we could do that would be like a gritty reboot? Mark Millar, as a joke, says the R word of Wonder Woman, and DC did take it seriously and had pages drawn. Which, Robert, it would have been the first, I think 10 pages would have been full page spreads of it happening publicly.
What?
And I'm like... Yeah, okay. But so we got this, and I'm like, I'd rather have this. This is less like ew. But anyway, so the Justice League is a joke because you have like all the this wasn't the time when Grant Morrison came on yet. So it's like you have like Blue Devil on the Justice League and such. But I love where no one's taking Wonder Woman seriously. It's like she goes, I'm Wonder Woman, and then like I think it was Blue Beetle goes, you can't be Wonder Woman because I'm Wonder Woman. Like no one took her seriously, essentially. And so throughout this is also here's the other part that I could see being like pissing off Trina Roberts. So there's a scene. So Wonder Woman fights the Joker. So the reason why Joker's in Boston is because he left Gotham, and he said because Batman's too mean right now.
Which,
and I'm like,
which to be fair, I did love how when after going through all this plan, Batman Joker sees as Batman, he's like, it's not him.
Yeah, because of course he would know. But so Joker paralyzes Wonder Woman by shooting her face with white liquid. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I could see why people hate this, bro. I really could see, of all the colors you could choose to shoot in someone's face, you pick that.
Now I blame the colorist more than I do the writer.
But still, it's like stuff blasting in Wonder Woman's face. You don't think that's gonna look bad anyway. So he fights the Joker and wins, and then at the end of it, so first you find out why. So Artemis dies. She sacrifices herself and basically does the Azrael Batman thing and says, "You're Wonder Woman." So Diana goes back to the island. And okay, as it turns out, the reason why Hippolyta had the whole contest in the beginning is because when she was in the Hell Dimension, she heard a prophecy that Wonder Woman would die. And that's why she let Artemis take over. She said she traded her daughter for Artemis. Yeah, that's it.
To be fair, if you loved her daughter that much.
Yeah, no, I'm like, that's not like, I don't have a problem with that. It's just like the other BS around it. So there was that. So that was the period in Wonder Woman's history when she had the biker suit. That's what that is. And I'm like,
the skimpy suit.
Let me put it this way, it's not a bad story. There's some BS in it, obviously, but compared to what we could have gotten, I'll take this.
But it was a reactionary story. It was a reactionary story.
Yeah, and Tavia, it's not too extreme because if it's either your own flesh and blood daughter or some random Amazon, you're going to pick the random Amazon to die.
From the tribe you don't even care for.
From the tribe that arguably almost went to war with the regular Amazons.
Exactly.
So I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. So that's Wonder Woman.
Okay. Now, of course, Artemis when he brought back from the dead and become a regular.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, a great regular because she's a great character. I really enjoy Artemis.
Exactly. Unfortunately, now you're having a lot of writers treat Diana like Artemis.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like, okay, wait a second. If you want a more aggressive Amazon to like use, there's literally a pre-existing character. You don't have to change Diana.
Just like if you want an evil Superman, just use Cyborg Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, then since I just realized we should have to bring this up because it is another case of reactionary Emerald Twilight.
Yeah. So what happened with this one is that Hal Jordan was kind of being seen as kind of lame. He kind of had we could say a quote image problem. Pun intended.
And let's go first. Gerard Jones, scumbag human being.
Yeah.
Had his original plan was to bring back the Guardians and the Zorians, they had gone off to make babies together. They were to come back, and it was going to lead to something like that. But DC looked at it and they realized, okay, that's not worthy of a 50th issue, nor is it something that'll be on par with it. So they said, Gerard decided, well, I can't help you, I'm leaving. So they brought Ron Mars in, and Ron Mars then decided, okay, what if Hal went nuts and became evil? And then we get a new Green Lantern instead. He destroys the core. Let's reduce the core down from a core to just one lantern. Let's simplify everything.
Yeah, and by the way, NJ brings up a good point. That would be a good see, that would have been a better team up than Batman, Artemis and Diana.
Yeah,
that would have been way better. But we all know Tom King hates the Amazons. Anyway, so essentially they create this character named Kyle Rayner, who's like an artist and stuff. And what's cool about Kyle, the reason why he took off immediately is because he was like an artist. He was like creating like Gundams and all this really weird.
Daryl Banks is what really made him work. Daryl Banks, his new costume design alone made him unique.
Yeah, because before he just looked like Hal Jordan to the point where people thought he was Hal Jordan.
Yep. So he gave him a new outfit quickly, and it's like it really stood out. It was a unique outfit that people loved, and again, I think that's what made Daryl Banks is what really made Green Lantern sing.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hal went nuts. Started killing. He wanted to basically reconstruct Coast City, but
he did.
But one, he didn't have enough energy, and two, in doing so, the Guardians were like, "You broke one of the rules. Come in, turn your ring." He was like, "F that." He goes in there and starts fighting off core members, taking them out left and right. Even Kilowatt got killed.
Yeah, killed. So
no, he was killed. They just found a way to bring him back later.
Okay, so
he was turned into a skeleton.
Okay, so essentially he becomes the villain Parallax.
Now this was before Jeff Johns would straighten that out. And yes, people were ticked off. Especially when you look at before Ron Mars came on, the George Jones was not. It was Harry B. Hal was handling it pretty well, but then Ron came in, happened to the point where that's what people thought. Ron must hate Hal. No, he didn't hate him at all. In fact, if you look at everything, everything was still done to respect Hal and make his fall from grace be a tragedy.
Yeah, essentially. So, and then I believe Hal didn't, air quote, die until the story where the sun is going out, right?
Yeah, but that's many years later. But that was Emerald Twilight. But unlike the others, this was a case where this was done as a shakeup, a permanent shakeup.
At the time, they thought it was going to be permanent.
Well, let's be honest. It was, if given how long it lasted, it was, compared to the others, a permanent shakeup.
Yeah, because for the longest time, again, there was only one Green Lantern. That was Kyle, and he was...
Eventually, they brought John in, eventually, but not yet.
Did Guy come in during this time period?
No. Guy had lost that ring, and his yellow ring he had, and eventually became Warrior.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, remember, at this point, there are no Yellow Lanterns or any of the other emotionals.
No.
There's just Green.
Yep, and Sinestro's one ring, which Guy had used for a long while until Hal destroyed it.
Which is so weird. It's so weird talking about this period, particularly with Green Lantern, before all this stuff was added.
I know, exactly. But for between them, I would put it this way. Here's how I would rank these 4 stories. I would say The Death and Return, because it's a classic. Emerald Twilight, because it was such a drastic change. Then Knightfall, because Knightfall had set a standard, but let's be and while it did succeed in doing what it went out to do, let's be honest, the most it did was give us the Bane, breaking. Now I will get to more specifics in a moment, and then finally the Wonder Woman one. But I would say the best villain, Bane, out of all 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Can we agree to that? Bane, best villain.
Out of all of them? Yeah, well, let me put it this way. The Superman one was just an animal, essentially.
And then Cyborg, and now Cyborg Superman is good. He's not that great.
He's not that complex. Wonder Woman was just recycling other villains, and Hal became the villain. So, yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, Bane was definitely the best creation out of all of it.
Which made... Okay, I asked Chuck about the Batman and Robin Bane, and he was like, yeah,
no one cares, but that was a tack on.
Yeah, you could tell even he was like, that sucks.
Everyone involved agreed. It was just tacked on. It was brought in to make him be the muscle. You could have had someone else be the muscle, and it would have worked. Here's the thing.
Dark Knight Rises, from a character perspective, nailed Bane, his intelligence, until the reveal. But in terms of like the breaking part, that is legit.
Mr.
That
Wade.
Yeah, I didn't like the voice though, and the fact that
I am here to Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
And okay, do you know who the CIA agent who picks him up in the beginning of the movie is?
Who?
Slade Wilson.
What?
That's what legit. It's in the movie. If you look at the documentation, it's Slade Wilson.
That should have been Bird or someone.
The dude that picks him up and then he escapes from the plane. That's Deathstroke.
That should have been Bird.
No, according to Nolan, that's Deathstroke.
No, but you get what I'm saying? Like, that should have been Bird.
Yeah, I know. But again, see, that's my that's on the level of use your real name, Robin.
I'll say this though, of the Arkham games, Arkham Origins also nailed it.
Yeah, they did. I'll give them that. Yeah, I will 100% allow that.
Out of all of them, Origins nailed it.
Of all the ones that featured Bane, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and J.B. Blanc as Bane was great, especially like, once you are dead, then I will finally have peace.
Yeah, I dug that. But so you have that.
Yeah.
So for me, Superman's number 1 because again, it's like all of that whole story. Yes, it's drawn out more, but that's the most like coherent story of the group. Green Lantern's next because Yeah, I get that, and I like what it led to, and how. Here's the thing: I'm approaching the Green Lantern one as someone that knows what it inevitably leads to.
Exactly.
So it's like, because of the fantastic stories that we got in like the Jeff Johns run, I'm putting that pretty high up there. I'm gonna go with Batman and then Wonder Woman. Yeah, Wonder Woman's the last one.
Same as me. Same as me. In other words.
Yeah, because the Wonder Woman one is okay. It's just, when you look at the competition, it's like, yeah, that's pretty steep.
Nothing against the Lobes. He tried.
No. Let me put it this way. The story is still fun to read. I'm totally like fine with that. It's just like, when you compare it to the other ones, it's like, it's no competition really.
Again, Superman had the advantage of they were already working as a team together. The writers.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. As not really convoluted, but as like long as that entire story felt, well, I'm talking about everything, it was coordinated up to yin yang.
Now I'll say this. In the case of Batman, Batman was needed for the crossovers we would get as time went on.
Yeah.
Because it started out strong. But then they reverted back to each writer got to do their own parallel thing, and it just didn't work.
And let me tell you this, Robert. I may not like a lot of the creative decisions that happen in like the Triangle era of Superman and like this, but I will not fault them. The fantastic coordinate, because at no point reading post-crisis storylines that collect all the same issues do I not feel like I'm reading the same story.
Look at when we went over Electric Blue. It felt like one big epic, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's because credit to Carlin for being able to, for lack of a better term, snap the whip and say, no, here's what we're doing. Do this. Keep his ducks in a row. And again, this is coming from someone that doesn't like a lot of the creative choices done this era, but I admire the coordination, because there are times nowadays where DC doesn't feel this coordinated.
Exactly. And I do feel nowadays they're probably the most coordinated they've been in a long time.
Like, it's way better than it's been in, like, I'd say about 5 to 10 years.
Yep. And I will say, like I said, Batman, again, it started out coordinated. Can we agree to that? Knightfall started out coordinated, but when they got the Night Quest,
yeah, Night Quest is where it goes downhill for me, because I'm just like, that's why it's, let me put it this way. In terms of coordinated story, Knightfall is in last place because of how it like where.
Now, to be fair, that's also because now Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, they got an edge because it was just one book.
And it's one writer, so I'm like, yeah, exactly. But it's like, still, it's like they felt more coherent anyway. But I'm like, I'm like, where are we going with this?
But then they had to re-crack the whip because they had to hurry for Night Quest.
And it definitely feels extremely rushed.
It does feel rushed, but I think the rushness kind of worked in its favor, because Batman would rush to go and get things taken care of.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Cameron, the reason why they wanted to use Doomsday, because they literally had to create because Doomsday was originally created just to kill Superman. They needed someone powerful enough, because, again, that was the question. Okay, so how are we going to kill Superman?
Yeah, we don't have kryptonite everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like now.
Yeah, and that's why. But I will say, I love the origin they gave Doomsday, like, later.
Yeah, in Hunter Prey. Yeah, the clone. And it tied back to Krypton's early history with the cloning.
Yeah, and I like how Doomsday is always like tied to Krypton in some way, because there are some continuities where like he was a super weapon created by Kryptonians, I believe by Lara actually, and like unleashed. In fact, actually, so fun fact. So here's the real Doomsday in the Snyderverse. Remember in like Man of Steel, there's this establishing shot, and one of the moons of Krypton is broken.
It was Doomsday who did it.
Yeah, because they unleashed him on Apocalypse.
Oh.
So that's that. So So they kind of hint at this in Zack Snyder's Justice League. When Steppenwolf says no protectors here, no lanterns, no Kryptonians, because Apocalypse was at war with the Kryptonians, and the Kryptonians unleashed Doomsday.
Okay.
I'm like, interesting. I wish I could have seen that. Can we get a prequel comic? Because that actually sounds really cool.
Interesting.
And actually, I believe it was Krypton, the show, did that.
Perhaps I'm not sure. I have not watched Krypton in ages.
Bro, I did. The only thing I didn't do is the Kryptonian part. I would say, the Apocalypse part. The worst Doomsday was Smallville.
Oh yeah, the Jimmy Olsen, mutation thing.
No, but it wasn't Jimmy. But still, I'm like,
well, yeah, but you know what I mean.
I'm like, you turned him into the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? I
rewatched
that.
I would say though, I really loved Lois and Clark. Superman and Lois, I mean.
Oh, that Doomsday? Yes, I think that was great. And I liked where at the end, Doomsday just says, let me kill myself. And then he just goes into the sun.
Yep, I love how he kept becoming more and more looking like the traditional Doomsday.
Yeah, and the idea, see, I did not see, I like that, because I didn't see it coming when all of a sudden they start turning Bizarro into Doomsday. I'm like, oh, that's a new thing, because you don't want to get too steeped in, like, the lore, because otherwise in a show you can't afford to get too steeped in there. So I'm like, as a shortcut, that's a pretty good shortcut.
Exactly. But
and it worked for the story. That's why I excuse that, because I'm like, it's like in Superman the animated series when they changed the lore to make Brainiac a Kryptonian AI. I'm like, okay, it makes sense for that storyline.
And I love how Bruce Timm put it, like, everyone knows it. No, wait, not everyone knows it.
Yeah, exactly. But I love NJ. Yeah, Doomsday beat the living crap out of Darkseid to the point where Darkseid had to go to Superman and say, "Can you come help us, please?"
Now, to be fair, that was a Darkseid that was on the weaker end because he hadn't remerged with all of himself.
No, but I still think that's cool. I also love in Hunt Prey the first time we see Doomsday, he wakes up and he just snaps people in half.
I know, it just grabs it, breaks the cable, and the cable takes the guy's head off. Like, yeah.
I'm like, oh my god!
Because it was a miniseries, they could be a little gorier.
Which, again, I loved it, and I'm like, see, that's why. Again, there's so much good stuff in that, and that's the one trade I need, because I have this. I have
that trade that has all the Doomsday books in it.
Yeah, I need the last one to complete my bloody S.
Yep, and it includes the Superman they basically 175 that Jeff Loeb wrote, where Doomsday actually has a brain.
Yeah. But
Doomsday was a class. I would say Doomsday and Bane were the classic villains that came out of all of this.
Yeah, and I will say, for a character that was originally designed to be a plot device, they've done a lot of great stuff with Doomsday.
Yep, exactly. I mean, then you had Brainiac. The Doomsday Wars with Brainiac taking over.
Yeah. Here's the one portrayal of Doomsday I hated: the DCAU where he's talking.
Oh, like, but now, granted, and next time we saw him, he was mindless then because he got lobotomized.
Nope. He came back.
I thought he was lobotomized still.
No, he came back and could still speak. It wasn't like the same, but when he lands and he's talking very cogently, I'm like, I hate this.
Yep. I mean, at least with Bane, while they hated working on Bane, they at least made sure that I still look at it this way. The way Bane went down, that's what would have happened in Knightfall. Batman was actually up to snuff.
Yeah, see, here's what I liked about the Knightfall thing. They made a great argument for a character that could beat Batman, because when you're reading the story, you can believe that this guy could beat Batman.
Because he was a tactical genius.
Yeah, because he knew, if I fight Batman at his best, I'm going to get my ass kicked.
I don't care how strong I am, how much venom I'm on. Which, by the way, venom tied into a previous story.
Yeah, I know. That was really cool. They used that. I'm like, okay, that's great. I love that.
They brought the drug, but had it become a better drug. And what was the name of the island in that story?
Peñadora. Oh, but it's like, again, it's like with that, it's like, by the time you followed his plan, I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Yep, that would work. Because here's the thing, Batman's a dude, because you're taking advantage of the physical humanity of the character.
Now and like I said, Bane represents the childhood obsession.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love that when you realize he represents the childhood obsession.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so But yeah, overall, now here's a big question: if you would have done your own take on Wonder Woman's story instead of what was done, now you could keep Artemis or not. What would you have done?
It's for a gritty reboot.
Exactly, or just
Well,
for the or just for a reaction to
Well, Britt and I did one. It's so in our Shelter from the Storm story, it's essentially like the Amazons get like taken out by like a supervillain, and eventually it's like Wonder Woman dealing with the fallout, and then I would modify the story a little bit, where in this she doesn't like do what she does in the story. I'm trying to bury the leader, so you guys go read the story. But it's like what I would do here is that she essentially the story is her trying to figure out how to be a Wonder Woman without the Amazons. So that's kind of what I would go. That's kind of what I would do, because I'm not going to have her like I'm not going to do the Maxwell Lord thing, because that's what DC would do.
yeah,
and obviously right. I'm not doing Mark Millar suggested. But by the way, NJ said current Doomsday versus current Darkseid is going to wipe the floor. High-powered Darkseid, particularly augmented with the Spectre. Oh, that's not going well for Doomsday.
Not at all. But I would definitely say.
What would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah, for Wonder Woman.
Well, if I were to take something from what would be a later story, one, I do my own handling of genocide.
There you go. That's a good one. That's a good one.
But I would have it be, though, she's a case where she's not from a far-off future. She's from a closer future that Diana is now terrified of. She feels like, oh, this person has not disappeared. That means this being, like she does, basically, genocide is just a footnote at the beginning. And now it's caused Diana to become paranoid.
Oh, a paranoid Diana, that would work.
Yeah, she's paranoid about what's going to be her fate going forward, and it causes her to become a bit on edge. Until then, eventually it is revealed that, yes, Cersei is behind this, and it's not. Turns out genocide is not Diana's future body. It's a copy, what's it called, a homunculus of Diana's body.
Yeah,
but Diana hadn't known.
That's interesting. Now, the other thing I would not do, I would not kill Diana at all.
No.
I would make Superman the only one where the character actually dies.
Oh yeah, that's why I wasn't going to go for it. This was supposed to be more the mind breaking of Diana. That's what I was going for. Her mind is breaking because of her paranoia. Because she does. There's so much information from genocide that makes her wonder, like, as far as she thinks, someone betrays her, someone close to her.
Yeah.
Because that's what she got when she wrapped the lasso around her. And of course, why would the lasso? Again, Diana would never consider these are false memories. Why would
exactly. She? And then NJ says she would use devastation in this arc as Diana's main antagonist. She's super underrated. Yep, she is. I could go with that. But yeah, so let us know in the comments or in the chat what your favorite of these 4 stories are. But Robert, I think it's a good place to leave it. This was a great topic suggestion. But where can we find you, and what have you got coming on your channel?
You can check out down below, and I'm coming up on my 550th, which I'm shooting so far for next Tuesday, and where I'll be covering Mouse.
Okay, and then for me, so movie night's gonna be the Assassin's Creed movie, and then obviously Comics League Dark is gonna be like we made to do a full Tom King blasting. I still have to decide on that. But Super Wonder Legacy, Britt and I are going to talk about Green Arrow and Black Canary, and I'll still have my Wonder Woman Q&A, and yeah. So
and also I'll be doing in a couple of in about 45 minutes. I'll be doing Doom: The Dark Ages.
I finished the game, bro.
Oh, isn't it great?
Oh, that's my favorite game right now, bro. I love it so much.
I mean, I'll say this: it pales compared to Eternal overall, but I still love it.
I had more fun playing this because I wasn't running out of ammo every 20 seconds.
True.
This one, I felt like I could actually fight more. And there's more to... I think, by the way, I made through the entire game on easy without dying once.
Nice.
Because I had 3 of those lives consistently the entire game. But anyway...
Yep.
But anyway, stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zois the Max about for life. We will see you later. Bye-bye.